everybody again. It's me coming to rattle on again. Um, I decided I'm just going to do videos as things come up in my head, especially when I talk to people, because there's quite a lot of areas that I struggle with, and I know I struggle with because of my profile. And one of the great things about my mind is that I can articulate it, or I can tell you in a way that makes sense. Seems that's what I get told anyway. Doesn't change anything though, and that's the point and the problem, because I can give you exactly what my difficulties are, what my issues are, what causes me great distress and all of that kind of stuff, but I'd still struggle to actively do anything about that. And traditional talking therapy, CBT and all that kind of stuff just don't help. I can sit down and talk to you blue face because I know what my difficulties are, I know where they affect me, but I still cannot control how that goes around in my head, which is where the problems, main issues come in. Today I want to talk about socialisation, friends, acquaintances, anything of that matter relationship wise or interaction with people. I have a great difficulty with interaction with people. I don't leave my house on my own. I always make sure I'm with my husband, or somebody else, usually my parents. Very rarely my eldest son will accompany me to places. But one of my biggest difficulties is the way my mind processes social interaction. So I am fully aware of how I can become very dependent on somebody because of my difficulties with demands, my difficulties with my anxiety, and how my brain blows everything up, and that I constantly need help and support of somebody, my husband, to keep regulation, and I struggle to keep my own regulation and grounded, if so to speak. So I'm very, very aware of how much I can be to somebody and how difficult I can be as a person to somebody. Now, my husband's constantly telling me that he doesn't feel like that and he doesn't see me as a burden, and we all have our roles to play, etc. But my mind doesn't work like that. It just tells me that I'm a burden to everybody. I ask too much, I want too much, and I'm too demanding. I'm also aware of how difficult I find demands. So one of the things I actively do as well is to try and not demand of other people too much, which is then a hard situation because I can't do it because it's too much of a demand. But I also can't ask somebody else to do it because I don't want to be too demanding of them. And also sometimes even asking them can be a demand in itself. So there's lots of situations that come into play here that my brain battles constantly. Even just a simple thing of asking Phil to make me a cup of tea can be really, really difficult because I feel I'm being too much. I feel like I'm being lazy. But then it's also a demand as well. My brain's demanding another part of my brain to do something, and then even if it's just to say, Phil, can you make me a cup of tea? It can be tricky. And that plays into relationships as well, even just acquaintances, etc. So when we're having conversations or text message, phone calls, emails, any of the sort, when anything communication-wise is going down, my brain is constantly looking for the threat within that conversation, even from the nicest person I have ever met, the people that I trust, the people, and when I say the people that I trust, it takes an awful lot to get into that side of me that I can trust because of my constant threat response. But even with somebody I fully trust 100%, it's still looking for issues and threats. I can have a conversation with anybody and my brain's still looking for that one word that doesn't sound right, or that one way that might make them come across like, actually, we're not here for you for good, or we don't trust you, or it's looking for reasons for this person not to like me, or reasons for that this person might be against me. And honestly, sometimes I sit down and I think to myself, I sound like a proper conspiracy theorist. What is in my head is like a proper conspiracy theorist, like it's constantly looking for that issue, that reason, that's not there. quite often. It's not there most of the time, you know. Not communicating with me, or if somebody, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not great at communication for this reason, because I'm always constantly second guessing everything. I don't openly reach out, so I won't necessarily come to you and say to you, hi, how's your day doing? For starters, I'm really rubbish at small talk, which those of you who've ever sent me an email around New Year or anything like that, and you've come back going Happy New Year, will notice that I don't actually acknowledge that part, and that's not me being rude. It's just the way my brain functions, and I'm not a very big small talk, or I just miss all them so small little things. I just tend to go straight dive into it, and it's not until afterwards that I realise that I completely missed that social enunciation or whatever. I didn't really respond back to it. And I'm like that in real, as in a person when I'm having a conversation as well. I've actually lost my train of thought on that one. Oh, the small talk. So I'm not a person who's going to reach out to you and go, hey, how's your day doing? And that's not because I'm not interested, and it's not because I'm a horrible person. It's just because opening up communication or being the first person to reach out puts my brain into scared mode, to be quite honest with you, is what I'm going to explain it as. Then it might only be a simple hi, how are you to you, but to me, then I sit and panic what's going to come back. I overthink what's going to come back, and I am scared of what's going to come back. And quite often, the only thing that usually comes back, if I did send them, would be, oh hey, it's not been too bad. But for some reason, my brain constantly thinks I need to be ready and alert for the worst case scenarios. So I find myself avoiding social situations and avoiding having any form of friendship or reaching out to people. That partly makes me selective mute, if you know what I mean. So when I am really, really heightened, those that are close to me will know that I go very, very quiet. Don't reach out. However, on the flip side, with certain people, in particular my husband, when I'm really, really heightened, I spew a load of gobbledygook out at him. My brain then works at 100 mile an hour just saying everything that's coming out of it. But it's took me a long time to be able to get into a situation where I feel trusting and secure enough that I can do that with him. I've been married to him for 11 years this year, and we've been together for 14 years this year. So yeah, that shows how long it's taken to get to that stage, and a lot of his patience, bless him. But because of that, because my brain's constantly looking for them threats, constantly feels safe, etc., it gets tired. It gets to a stage where I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want my brain to be constantly feeling like it needs to do that. Constantly feeling scared, constantly having to monitor every situation. But no matter what I do, no matter who it is, no matter how I feel about that person, no matter who that person is in my life, it constantly still does it, and I have not found anything that shuts that bit down, no matter what I do. I am fully aware that it's there. I am fully aware that what it's doing, and quite often what I realise with a lot of my profile and a lot of my trait, it's irrational. And this is why I say at times I'm not a very open book, but I've decided I am going to be an open book about talking about it this way, because it does make me sound like a crazy delusional conspiracy theorist because of the way my brain works. But I'm not going to sit with my tinfoil hat on thinking that there's an alien coming to abduct me, because I'm not that kind of crazy. But I do feel threatened by every person that comes into my life, and I don't mean that in a nasty way, and I'm not trying to say that you're all horrible people, because that's not how it is, but my brain doesn't know how to function or how to understand that people coming into my life is fine, or friends is fine, or having a conversation with somebody is fine. Not everybody's out to get you, because it doesn't help as well that we do have quite a lot of past trauma against people. Not against people, but where people have not done what is best for our family, which has probably compounded and made this worse for us as a family. And it's not just me that struggles, all of my household struggles, but it's understanding that even prior to that happening, I still had all of these feelings and these thoughts and these difficulties around managing or being around people in relationships. I am scared of everybody and everything, yeah? And it's not necessarily because somebody's done something drastic or horrible, or they're the worst person ever, or I've heard horrible stories about them. It's because my brain constantly has this threat alert on, that it looks for little things, little subtle things, little things that you might do that mean nothing, but to my brain could be a red flag. That means then that, in all honesty, we avoid everybody, every social thing, everything possible, yeah? We don't want to be scared. We don't want to fear everybody. You know, I don't... As a 39-year-old woman, I've settled into the fact of what my traits are and how they affect me, yeah? I have embraced the fact that socialisation and being out and about and in crowds is extremely difficult for me, exhausting, and just causes such massive internal arguments, etc. And I've accepted and settled with that. I wouldn't necessarily say that makes me 100% happy with it, because there are sides to me at some points where I do wish I could have friends. And I don't mean because I have some great friends in my life. What I mean is, I do wish I could have friends where I could actually meet social obligations, where I could go out, where I could do something, where I could try something new, I could do something exciting. It's not that I don't want to do it, and this is what needs to be understood. When we talk about what we want to do, and a lot of people view our kind of profile that I have as a person not wanting to do it. It's not the case, right? I want to do it. There's lots in my mind that I'd absolutely love to do. I love having dreams, I have ambitions, I have great ideas, but it is so tiring and so exhausting just to battle the internal day-to-day fights and arguments that go in my brain to function on the non-negotiable tasks and get the main things done. There's never anything left to battle to be able to do the things I want to do. I find myself in a situation where I've accepted that, yeah, and probably probably most people would sit there and go, but you shouldn't be accepting that, but I have accepted that, and it is difficult for some people to understand why I've accepted that, but it does help my brain that I've accepted that. For me, I need to manage my own brain's expectations, manage my own expectations of what and it's not about what I'm able to do, it's about my capacity. So I do realise in my last video I kept saying capability, but it wasn't capability in reality, it's the capacity. And one of the things that I've been trying to unpick and help people to understand is that ability and capacity are two different things, yeah? Just because a person doesn't have a capacity to do something doesn't mean they don't have the ability to do something. Quite often there's lots of physical tasks that I could easily do but don't have capacity to do, and there's a big difference there. It's the mental overwhelm, the capacity in that aspect, that is my drawback. And that in itself is why I really, really struggle with socialisation. We're going out and doing things. I'd love to go and watch Devil Wears Prada 2, and I said that to my husband, and then a lot of time I went, I'll just wait till it comes on his TV. because it's easier to battle to sit and watch it at home on the TV than it is to battle the continuous anxiety of having to go out, buy the tickets, sit in a cinema, all of that kind of stuff. And I use those battles and I save them to be able to go out and do things with my kids, because that's what you do, isn't it? And that's what my kids battle as well. So we all battle together and we all go out together and we do what we can when we can. It's often, not often, or not much. And this is another thing when I talk about the difference between being an adult PDA and a child who's PDA, because quite often a lot of society forces these social things on us and says we have to be around other people, we have to be, socialised, or we're good, it's not good for us, etc. However, as an adult we choose, yet we don't give children that choice. We force children to have friends, we force children to make, to be out in public, we force children to be around others and to do activities, but as adults, if we can't do it, we choose not to. If we're unable to, we don't have the capacity to do it, we don't do it. Yet we constantly push children past that capacity into territory where they just do not have enough left to accept what needs to be done that day. And I'm not going to say spoons, because I don't think it is similar to the spoons theory as I expect it, like I explained in my last video about having enough demands in a day, etc., to be able to tackle. But I don't want to call them spoons. I've not come up with an idea what I want to call them yet. But it's about having enough capacity within the day to manage the demands. And obviously we have a list of non-negotiable demands that need to be done. That doesn't mean we have the capacity to do all of them non-negotiable demands either. But then it's understanding that the negotiable demands are literally at the bottom of the list, and if we can negotiate out of them, then we are gonna, if we don't have the capacity to do the non-negotiable demands, then they're never gonna get to them ones, are we? And it's about understanding that. So it's about trying to think of how, and every day is different, and there's many reasons why that can change. Hormone fluctuations, what part of your life you're in, whether you're perimenopausal, periods, testosterone elevations, because although men don't necessarily physically have a monthly, they do have fluctuations throughout the month. Puberty, growth, medical issues that might prop up that can affect hormones as well, and changes in us, environments. There's lots and lots of things that affect our capacity and our ability, well, not ability, but our capacity to actually be able to do these things, because that's what it is, it's capacity, it's not ability. I'm trying to think of one, because it's not spoons per se. Spoons is the emotional energy, isn't it, that we have. For us, for someone like me, it's more around having the capacity for demands. And that all goes down to how I'm feeling on the day, how my environment is, whether I've slept well, am I hungry, do I need to go to the toilet, how my mental health's feeling, and all of that builds up into a picture of what my capacity for demands are that day. And it's the same for socialisation, and I'll be honest with you, socialisation probably runs down as a demand that is negotiable, or that I don't have to do. I can choose whether to do it or not. Obviously if it's a work meeting, that's different, but I don't necessarily class that as socialisation. But we push and we make a lot of our children go out and be social with no choice and reckon that they should have friends. But like I say, as a PDA adult with a profile that I have, the demands of socialisation are probably one of the things I drop first, because it is one of the biggest things that affects me as well. However, I drop it because I choose to. I can control whether I do that or not. I can control whether I go out or not. I can control who I be around. So it's one of the easiest things that I can control and do. So I do it to lessen that anxiety, to build a bigger capacity for the non-negotiable demands. But then on the flip side, there are dark days. There are days where I want to have friends, want to go out, where my brain's beating me up because all I want to do is be able to pick up the phone and have a general chit chat of hello, how's your day been, and feel like I am part of something. But then my brain is beating me up on the other side, telling me, but we don't do that for a reason, because that's scary and there's lots of unknowns there, and that person might not like you, and you might say something to upset them. You're not great at conversation. You always put your foot in it. They might not want to talk to you. What if they don't answer you? What if they ignore you? What if they're busy? But your brain tells you they're not busy. They just don't want to speak to you, really. There's lots of things that then go on in my mind. So it is a battle. It is constant. And I'm not sure I've just made sense. I've probably just rumbled through a load of jibber jabber as I usually do. But I'm just trying to be a bit more open about what goes down on in my brain, and people probably tune in and think, oh my god, she's absolutely crazy. She's mad as a box of frogs, which probably am. But as I keep telling everybody else, we're all the same in my house. We're all weird. We're all different. Therefore, we're all normal. Because the definition of normal is the medium of what everybody is. So we're all neurodivergent in our house. Therefore, neurodivergent is neuronormal for us. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to stop yabbering on. And I'll see you for my next instalment when I decide to yabber on about something else. Bye.